What does drawsteel have that Dungeons & Dragons doesn't? Pretty much everything. Hey there, adventurers. I'm Judd, and this is Short Rest Studios, where we believe fun builds community. When Matt Colville announced MCDM's first RPG, the internet exploded with excitement to the tune of $4.6 million in crowdfunding. The resulting system, drawsteel, holds nothing sacred, delivering a game that's about as far from D&D as it could be. Combat is, at its core, the same in every TTRPG. Use abilities, roll dice. But in all honesty, that's where the similarities end between 5e and MCDM's new RPG. I'm going to show you 3 ways combat in drawsteel crushes D&D. Stick around to the end, though, because there's also one thing I think D&D still does right. First off, drawsteel completely reimagines initiative. A lot of folks on YouTube and elsewhere have referred to drawsteel's initiative system as zipper initiative, but it's actually something else. In a zipper system, and this is really boiling it down, the players each roll initiative, but the DM only rolls for one enemy, for instance, the highest CR monster if you were to use this system in 5e. Compare the highest PC roll to the highest monster roll, and the highest of those two goes first. Player turns are then ordered by their rolls, and enemies are ordered by, again for a D&D game, possibly CR. Then you alternate between PCs and enemies. If a PC had the highest roll, the PC goes first, followed by the highest CR monster. Then the PC with the next highest roll goes, followed by the next highest CR monster, and so on. But in drawsteel, combat starts as soon as one side intends to harm the other. Surprise might determine which side goes first. For example, in the excellent drawsteel starter adventure, The Delian Tomb, initiative in the very first combat encounter is determined by an intuition test, somewhat like rolling a perception check in 5e, that concludes whether the goblin guards notice the heroes first or vice versa. When combat starts, the first turn is based on the outcome of that test. I'll drop a link to the Delian Tomb in the description. But if both sides have creatures who aren't surprised, the director, that's the GM in drawsteel, calls for a roll, a d10. And if it's a 6 or higher, the players decide which side goes first, 5 and under, and the director decides. Then they act in alternating side order from there. When the hero's side goes, they choose one PC to take their turn, then the director chooses a monster or sometimes a group of monsters on their side to go. There is some randomness involved, but this system leans much more heavily towards strategy than D&D's initiative system. When the choice of who goes when in each round falls to the people rather than the dice, players can plan their actions as a team, deciding whose abilities will be most effective when and acting accordingly. It's really hard to strategize this way in 5e without holding turns or remaking the way initiative works. Second, drawsteel's dice mechanics make combat fun. Drawsteel is not a d20 system. The primary roll in the game, called a power roll, for using abilities, for tests, for combat, is a 2d10 plus the appropriate ability score. Drawsteel does away with 5e's ability score and modifier, which frankly makes little to no sense in modern D&D. You have only the modifier, and power roll outcomes happen in 3 tiers. Rolling an 11 or lower is tier 1, which means you do something, but it has minimal impact. Tier 2 is a roll of 12 to 16. Your action has moderate impact. Tier 3 is a 17 or higher, the best possible outcome, meaning your action has maximum impact. For example, your hero is a Fury, drawsteel's version of a barbarian. Let's say you want to use their brutal slam ability. You'd add your might to the roll. Might is one of your characteristics along with agility, reason, intuition, and presence. Tier 1, which is an 11 or lower, means you deal damage equal to 3 plus your might score, then you push the target back 1 square on the grid. Tier 2, 12 to 16, means you deal damage equal to 6 plus your might score, then you push the target back 2 squares. With a 17 or higher, tier 3, you deal 9 plus your might and push the target back 4 scores. 4 squares. Notice that you never miss. There are no quote-unquote lost turns in drawsteel. Every attack hits, every use of an ability has some impact. It's just a question of how much good it will actually do. The third, and I believe most significant way drawsteel's combat is more fun than D&D's, it flips the script on resources. In an excellent blog, which I'll drop a link to below, Brian Moakley writes that D&D is a game of attrition and drawsteel is a game of abundance. And I honestly can't think of a better description. In 5e, players have to balance hit points, spell slots, abilities, and short and long rests with combat encounters. The longer they go without a rest to replenish their dwindling resources, the harder it becomes to win or even survive. And since you probably want your combat encounters to become more challenging as they progress, that creates planning and resource challenges as well. And that's fine if that's where you find your fun. But drawsteel completely changes the dynamics of combat. Players actually get more powerful as the day goes on. The game does this with a resource called victories. Each hero starts the adventuring day with 0 victories, but each time they win a fight, they gain 1 victory. Although the director can decide that they don't get any if the encounter was way too easy. And they can also get victories for especially difficult non-combat challenges like a really complicated puzzle or trap. Victories are important for a couple of reasons. First, at the beginning of a combat encounter, a PC gets a number of heroic resources equal to the number of victories they have. Each class in the game has unique heroic resources. For example, the Censor, sort of like a paladin, has Wrath. The Conduit, more or less equivalent to a cleric, has Piety. The Fury has Ferocity. Heroes use those resources to trigger certain abilities or enhance effects. This means that the more victories you gain, the more powerful your hero can actually become over the course of a day. Of course, taking damage in combat reduces your stamina, so as you become more powerful, unless you're really lucky, you're also easier to kill. You can use recoveries throughout the day, sort of like a short rest, except you can even use those to catch your breath during battle to regain some stamina. But a respite is a focused 24-hour period of rest where you regain your recoveries and stamina, and your victories are converted to XP. The next day, you start with 0 victories again, and then you get more powerful and eventually take a respite. At the beginning of a combat encounter, the director also gets a resource known as Malice, which is based on the number of heroes and the average number of victories they have. They use this resource to activate monster abilities and surprise heroes in combat. Adventurers, before we move on to the one thing I believe D&D still does better than drawsteel, I want to introduce you to a project I am incredibly excited about. The Scorched Basin, a brand new system-agnostic campaign setting for my friends at Homie and the Dude. Not that dude. It's now on Kickstarter, and this isn't just a sponsorship. I actually had the opportunity to contribute to it, and when you back this project, you support a fantastic family-owned indie publisher and this channel. More about that in a second. Inspired by the post-apocalyptic mayhem of Mad Max and the mysticism and deep lore of Dune, the Scorched Basin is packed, literally packed, with multiple desert terrains, 5 competing factions, unique creatures and player options, a one-of-a-kind magic system. You'll get an alchemy system, languages, incredible history and lore, battle maps for 5 key locations, including 2 cities, printable 3D models, original artwork, 7 different art styles from one artist. There's no AI adventurers. Pre-built land vehicles and rules for driving them, a custom soundtrack, voiceovers. The amount of content included in the Scorched Basin is insane. And the marketing budget for the Scorched Basin isn't going to big corporations like Google or Meta. Homie and the Dude is investing it all back into the TTRPG community with more than 100 YouTube and TikTok TTRPG creators, including me, collaborating on and supporting the Scorched Basin. You can click my referral link in the description or scan this QR code to back the Scorched Basin Kickstarter and support Short Rest Studios. In my opinion, drawsteel is overall more fun than 5e. But there's one thing D&D does better, and it's a big one: swingy action. This is a complaint a lot of people have about 5e, and it's certainly the reason that games like Drawsteel or Nimble use the no-miss mechanic, and why Drawsteel and Daggerheart went with 2 dice for action resolution rather than your good old d20. Not to get too deep into the weeds of dice mechanics, but when you roll a single die, every possible result is equally probable. If you roll a single d20, you have an equal chance of getting a 1 or a 20 or a 12. The graph of that would be a straight line. But when you roll 2 dice or 3 dice or more, things start to look quite a bit different. That means that if you roll 2d10 as you do in Drawsteel, you now have a 1% chance of rolling a 20. You can't roll a 1, obviously. and you have a 10% chance of rolling an 11. The numbers in the middle become more common. So in drawsteel, a standard success, the tier 2, is going to be the most common result. But in D&D, you're just as likely to fail or succeed. Modifiers are there, of course, to make success a little more likely based on your character's abilities and, weapons. But a 1 is a 1. And you're just as likely to roll that as a critical success. Combat is cinematic and exciting in drawsteel, but there's not as much opportunity for those dice-fueled wacky moments that you get in D&D or any D20 game. Like when your barbarian tries to break down a door and can't roll above a 5, and then your wizard walks up and kicks it down with a 20. Now, this depends on your preferred playstyle, really. But I like swingy action. That's one of the main reasons I love Dungeon Crawl Classics. I think that unpredictability makes things more fun, not less. But if that's not how you like to play, drawsteel just might be your game. Adventurers, that's my take. What do you think of drawsteel? How does it stack up against 5e? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to click on that Kickstarter link in the description for the Scorched Basin. And if you got something out of this video, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and please consider supporting the channel by joining the Adventurers Guild at patreon.com/shortreststudios or by hitting the join button right under this video. Drawsteel isn't the only other TTRPG that gives D&D a run for its money. Check out this video, and I'll see you next time on Short Rest Studios.